So this is the second book I will be reading. It's called Shankara's Crest of Discrimination, and it's timeless teachings on non-duality. So in this video, I'll just be reading a hymn at the beginning and a summary of Shankara's life. So, O Lord, dweller within, you are the light in the heart's lotus. Om is your very self, Om, holiest word, seed and source of the scriptures. Logic cannot discover you, Lord, but the yogis know you in meditation. In you are all God's faces, his forms and aspects. In you also we find the Guru. In every heart you are, and if but once only, a man will open his mind to receive you. Truly that man is free forever. Chapter 1. Beautiful and fantastic clouds of legends surround the austere, charming, boyish figure of Shankara, saint, philosopher, and poet. But historically speaking, we know very little about the circumstances of his life. He was born in or around the year of 686 AD of Brahmin parents at Kaladi, a small village of western Malabar in southern India. By the age of 10, he was already an academic prodigy. Not only had he read and memorized all the scriptures, but he had written commentaries on many of them, and had held discussions with famous scholars who came to him from every part of the country. Yet the boy was dissatisfied. At a time when most children are only beginning to study, he was already disgusted by the emptiness of book knowledge. He saw that his teachers did not practice the lofty truths they preached. Indeed, the whole society in which he lived was materialistic and pleasure-seeking. India was passing through a period of spiritual decadence. Shankara, burning with youthful zeal, resolved to make his own life an example which would lead men back to the paths of truth. At this period, his father died. The boy puzzled over the riddle of life and death, and determined to solve it. He would renounce everything in his search for the meaning of existence. It was then he wrote the poem called Moha Mudgaram, the shattering of illusion. Here is a more or less literal translation. Who is thy wife? Who is thy son? The ways of this world are strange indeed. Whose art thou? Whence art thou come? Vast is thy ignorance, my beloved. Therefore ponder these things and worship the Lord. Behold the folly of man, in childhood busy with his toys, in youth bewitched by love, in age bowed down with cares, and always unmindful of the Lord. The hours fly, the seasons roll, life ebbs, but the breeze of hope blows continually in his heart. Birth brings death, death brings rebirth. This evil needs no proof. Where then, O man, is thy happiness? This life trembles in the balance like water on a lotus leaf, and yet the sage can show us, in an instant, how to bridge this sea of change. When the body is wrinkled, when the hair turns gray, when the gums are toothless and the old man's staff shakes like a reed beneath his weight, the cup of his desire is still full. Thy son may bring thee suffering. Thee wealth is no assurance of heaven. Therefore be not vain of thy wealth, or of thy family, or of thy youth. All are fleeting, all must change. Know this and be free. Enter the joy of the Lord. Seek neither peace nor strife, with kith or kin, with friend or foe. O beloved, if thou wouldst attain freedom, be equal unto all. Shankara now persuaded his mother to let him take the monastic vow, promising that he would return to visit her before she died. Then, having made arrangements for her needs, he set out in search of a teacher. On the banks of the river Narmada, he met Gaudapada, a famous philosopher and seer, who had attained knowledge of the reality. Shankara asked the old man for initiation, but Gaudapada refused. He had made a vow to remain absorbed in union with Brahman. However, he sent the boy to his foremost disciple, Govindapada. Govindapada initiated him and instructed him in meditation and the whole process of yoga. Within a very short time, Shankara achieved complete mystical realization and himself went out to teach. One morning, he was on his way to bathe in the Ganges. He met a Chandala, a member of the lowest caste, the untouchables. The man had 4 dogs with him, and they were blocking Shankara's path. For a moment, inborn caste prejudice asserted itself. Shankara, the Brahmin, ordered the Chandala out of his way. But the Chandala answered, "If there is only one God, how can there be many kinds of men?" Shankara was filled with shame and reverence. He prostrated himself before the Chandala. This incident inspired one of Shankara's finest poems, the Manisha Panchaka. It consists of 5 stanzas, each one ending with the refrain, "He who has learned to see the one existence everywhere, he is my master, be he Brahmin or Chandala." Shankara began his teaching among the scholars of the country, converting the teachers first and then their pupils. One of them was the famous philosopher Mandan Misra. Mandan Misra held that the life of the householder was far superior to that of the monk, and his opinion was respected and widely shared throughout India. Shankara determined to argue with him and journeyed to his home. When he arrived, he found the doors locked. Misra was holding a religious ceremony and did not wish to be disturbed. Shankara, with the mischievous spirit of a boy in his teens, climbed a nearby tree and jumped down from it into the courtyard. Misra noticed him among the crowd. He disapproved of monks, especially when they were so youthful, and asked sarcastically, "Whence comes this shaven head? You have eyes to see, sir." Shankara answered saucily, "The shaven head comes up from the neck." Misra lost his temper, but Shankara continued to tease him, and at length the 2 of them agreed to hold a debate on the relative merits of the monks' and householders' lives. It was understood that Shankara, if he lost, should become a householder, and that Misra, if he lost, should become a monk. The debate lasted for several days. Bharati, the learned wife of Misra, acted as umpire. Finally, Shankara was able to convince Misra of the superiority of the monastic life, and Misra became his disciple. It was he who later annotated Shankara's commentaries on the Brahma Sutras. Shankara's life came to an end at Kedarnath in the Himalayas. He was only 32 years old. During this brief period, he had established many monasteries and had founded the 10 monastic orders. This was the first time that monasticism had ever been organized in India, and Shankara's system still exists at the present day. He was a reformer rather than an innovator. He preached no new doctrine or creed, but he gave a new impulse to the spiritual life of his time. Separated by intervals of 1,000 years, like 3 tremendous mountain peaks, Buddha, Shankara, and Ramakrishna dominate the range of India's religious history. Shankara's literary output was enormous. He not only made commentaries on the Vedanta Sutras, the principal Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita, but produced 2 major philosophical works, the Upadishasari and the Viveka Chudamani, the crest jewel of discrimination. He was also the author of many poems, hymns, prayers, and minor works on Vedanta. The crest jewel of discrimination is written entirely in verse, possibly because this would be easier for pupils to memorize. The lines are long and the meter is intricate. We have decided not to attempt to reproduce it in English. Shankara's message is infinitely more important than its literary form. Clarity has been our only aim throughout the text. For this reason, we have not hesitated to paraphrase and expand whenever necessary, but the translation remains, on the whole, very close to the original.